Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Omzara's Calms Creation and I am Ann, your host. Let's take a deep breath and let's come on into the studio. I'm talking about unfinished quilts, UFO, whips, works in progress. How can we finish them? Why are they unfinished? What took so long? And this is my story. This quilt started out as this little section right here. Um, it was not stitched right. It had a deep curve on the side, and I didn't like that I have two blocks of the same color put together. So I didn't know how to deal with it. I packed it up and I put it in the closet. I started this quilt in 2009 and here it is 2025. How did I go about it? I took it out of my closet. I laid it out where I could walk by every day. I would see it. And my mind got to thinking how I could complete it. The first thing I did was to square up the quilt. I had to cut a lot of fabric off of this side that you were just seeing because it had a curve in it. I don't know how it got there. I don't know why. Then I found a complementary color to put around the border, the inner border and the outer border. So I found this green lime fabric because I love green and all of these colors somewhat go together with the green. And I did a quilt as you go and I added them on the border. Then I ran out of fabric, so I had to crawl on the floor of my studio and look for a sliver of this piece to add there. Once I got that together, I rounded my corners of the quilt. I put them all together, squared up the quilt, and rounded the corners. Then I would need to pick out my binding. I chose this binding right here, the floral yellow beige kind of binding, because I know it's going to go to the back of the quilt. And the back of the quilt is mostly beige and yellowish. And I got busy to getting it together. And then I promised to come back to you with another video showing you how to add the prairie points in the quilt. And that's what we're doing right now. So once I fold the prairie points in the way that they're folded, I'm going to add it under the binding. And please look at how the quilt is set. This is the top of the quilt, and I'm adding the binding to the top of the quilt along with the prairie points. And this binding should not show on the front, but it'll all be sewn on the back. So I take the prairie point, which is a 4x4-inch block, and I fold it in half first. And then I take the corners and I fold them down to create a prairie point. And then I'm going to go ahead and add it to the quilt. Again, this is added to the front of the quilt. And it's added, the prairie points are added in front of the binding, as you can see here. I have a tip. It would come very easy for you to go to get your iron and iron out your prairie points and have them all ready, and iron your binding strip also. So all you have to do is lay it out and sew and lay it out. Once I got all that together, this is the result. Oh my goodness. I'm shaking my head. Beautiful prairie points. Beautiful color combination. I just love it. And in the process of me fixing this quilt, I learned a skill. I kept practicing how to do this skill right here. And what I am doing, I am going to stitch the two binding strips together to make them look like a continuous strip. And my mind, from watching so many videos, just As I'm doing the voiceover for this video, just realize that, wow, I know how to do this. But what this does is it helps to distribute the bulk of the fabric in this particular binding strip. And instead of doing a straight inch stitch, you're going to do a diagonal line, and maybe I'll show another video to show you how to do it. But it's fun when once you learn how to do something you've been trying for so long to get, and it finally just, it seemed like I know how to do that forever, and I'm just flawlessly sewing this, and I just, in my mind, it just clicked how to do it. It's amazing. And then I'm going to trim up the fabric in there, and look how it makes this continuous strip right here. This is how you add your binding to your quilt. So far, I did a quilt as you go to add the borders around the quilt. First, I had to cut the quilt and get it squared up, right? We cut the quilt, get it squared up, and we had to cut up a significant part of the quilt. And then we found some fabric that would complement the quilt. All these steps are very difficult steps to take, because you got to pick out a fabric, you got to see what works, what doesn't work. So we did the quilt as you go. We added the borders doing quilt as you go. We boldly picked out some fabric that would complement the rest of the blocks that we had on the quilt. And we're adding these prairie points that give the quilt another design aspect. This was fun, but it was I got to the point where I was willing to not continue on. I'm still not really happy with the quilt, because a part of me keeps saying, you need to take those stitches out and redo those stitches. And I may do that. And some of my prairie points, I didn't stuff them in enough. They didn't get caught in the stitch. And some of them are coming out. So eventually I may end up taking out the little areas and fixing it later. But you will see that in the quilt. And just know, I don't care. It's going to go in my car. And I love how it looks, and if it makes me happy, I don't care what anybody else says. But then I went on and got bold and made 2 quilt labels. This one says, "You are one of a kind, and so is this quilt," and it's going to be dated for the date that I completed it. And I got to play around with my new Pulling embroidery machine. And then the other quilt label says, "May this quilt be an everlasting hug from me to me." So here is what I came up so far with the border and the quilt label. And then I added the prairie points. Oh my God, it's a chef's kiss. Mwah! Look how beautiful that is. You cannot tell me those prairie points are not giving that quilt a little bit of pizzazz. I'm so happy. The first thing about it is that I love how all these colors go together. That was one reason why I couldn't really get rid of the quilt. I was like, I like the browns and the greens and the purples and the navy blues and the beiges. So I always would look at this quilt and be like, it's pretty, But sometimes, I think that it comes a point in a quilter's life where some quilts are just not made to be finished at the time that you're in. You might be making a quilt for a future time. You might be making part of it for a future time. I had to mature in my thinking and my critical thinking skills and my design skills in order to finish it. So don't feel bad if you haven't finished some of your quilts. Maybe it's not its time. And now at this day, I was ready to finish it and ready to, get in and do all the reconstruction and make it work. Now, there are still some stitches that are crooked because at the time I tried to quilt this quilt using a free motion quilting, and going around square corners was very difficult, so all my lines are wobbly and I'm still not happy about that. And then I have blocks that are the same color that are touching each other. I didn't like that, but I love how it's a randomness to it. It's like, boom, I don't care. We don't care. We're just going to look good anyway. And isn't that how nature is? It was randomly put together. I'm sure I probably, because I did a quilt as this was a quilt as you go, and I stitched them in rows and then put the rows together, and I think one of the rows got switched around. But did it, or was it a design aspect? Sometimes I'm telling you, you got to let stuff be what it wants to be. And I love the randomness of it. I love how there's not a pattern. Sometimes you get tired of patterns, cookie cutter patterns. You're like, oh, your eyes get tired. Like, can we have something that's just original, that's just genuine? So as far as the blocks putting together, how some of them are touching and some of them are, I like that about it. I'm loving my prairie points. And I did run into some areas where I will still have to take the stitches out because I didn't get it caught in the seam. And I'm sure some of the quilting police, they're going to see that and notice it. But hey, I got this far. I'm happy. And in my mind, I'm still thinking that I will come to a point and sit down one good day and take out those stitches and then restitch it. But it's done, you guys. We accomplished something today. Like I said, we did a UFO. We completed a UFO. We did a quilt as you go, adding the borders. We cut that curve out of there, even though part of the blocks are cut off and you can't tell. We added prairie points. Oh my goodness. How beautiful. I'm loving it. I love it. All that in one quilt. And I learned how to make a continuous line for my binding. Look at that. Look at the bold browns and the blues and the greens and the navies. And then that copper colored border. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys for sharing on this journey of my unfinished quilt. I'm so glad I finished it. Thanks guys for joining me on this UFO adventure. I know you have some. I hope this inspired you. And just know sometimes quilts are not made to be finished at the time. This was fun. I'm going to say until next time. Bye.